This video is going to be about the D3300 by Nikon. I think it's the best entry-level camera ever made. It was the only entry-level camera I've ever had. So that's probably why. So let me go ahead and tell you what the video is going to be about quickly. It's going to be mainly about my experiences with the camera, my experience as a business person with the camera, and why I think this camera is the best entry-level camera pretty much ever made, right? So first off, where I like to start most of the time is pricing. I have links below where this camera, when I bought it about 7 years ago, was $500. Now it's $270, and that's without taxes included. So you can get a DSLR camera that has the ability to take photos and do digital video for under 300 bucks. And the reason why I think that's really important is because you're going to need other things to accompany your camera if you're getting into business and if you're really trying to take your art to the next level. You're going to need a lens. You're also going to need a speed light. I'm going to have links below to lenses and speed lights, right? I just want to show you a few examples of some of the pictures that I've been able to take throughout the years. For full disclosure purposes, I didn't use Photoshop on any of my pictures. I use Lightroom just for mostly color corrections. So I just want to make sure that when I'm telling you about the camera that you're keeping in mind how much time that I had to spend in order to actually learn how to use the camera. But I'm going to really stay away from ISO, aperture, shutter speeds, and things of that nature, because you can follow along or find out those type of things on other videos, and you're going to have to study. So if you do not study on how to be a photographer, if you don't study on how to use a camera, it don't matter how much you spend. But the reason why I think that this camera is really good is because you can start out at an extremely low cost, and if you're getting into business, and that's what I did, you can make your money back on this camera. And not only can you make your money back on this camera, you can make more money to upgrade to the next camera. So that's why I really love this camera. It's the cost price. Like I said, the cost point. The cost point, this camera is $270 right now on Amazon. And then also, you can get this lens. It's a 35mm prime lens. You use that mainly for video, but I used it for photography as well in low light situations. When I'm doing parties, you're really going to need something that has the ability to open up your ability to absorb light in places where the roofs might be higher and you don't have the ability to even use a speed like to bounce lights off the wall, bounce lights off the roof. You're going to need a prime lens, or not a prime lens, you're going to need a lens with 35mm, and the aperture is at 1.8. So like I said, do your homework on things like aperture, but if you already know what that is, basically aperture is going to allow more light to come into the camera without distorting the picture. At first I was going to do this video on my new upgraded camera, but then I thought, why do that when I can give you a better example of the video quality that this camera does also bring. So I actually have two D3300s, and I'm using one for video and one for an example. Like I said, I've had these cameras for years. You can see right here where the bottom plate, where the battery has fallen off, but there's a little latch that still keeps the battery tightly secured. There's no jiggling, there's no shortages or anything like that. So even though the bottom plate is falling off, I still feel extremely confident on my shoots just having the battery in there. And that works out for me really well. Durability of this camera. I have taken these cameras out on the beach. I'm from South Florida. I live in South Florida. Sand is the enemy to all photo equipment, and I've taken my cameras out on the beach plenty of times. I actually messed up one of my lenses by getting sand inside of the lens, and it destroyed the lens, but I've never had a problem with the camera body itself in sand. And like I said, I take my cameras out on the beach all the time. I've done plenty of beach shoots, and they've never let me down or anything like that. I've also dropped this camera on concrete before. You know, I'm not really proud of it, but it takes a licking and keeps on ticking. Takes a licking and keeps on ticking. So these cameras are extremely durable. I really want to drive in the point of this being an entry-level camera. What my definition is for entry-level, that's for starting out business people, parents looking for a great camera for your kids, anybody that just wants to get into photography. Like I said, I've been doing photography for years, so a lot of my clients are people that don't have cameras. If they simply picked up a camera and learned how to use a camera, I'd be out of a job extremely quickly. So, you know, if you have a business somewhere outside of South Florida, don't listen to me if you're in South Florida, come hire me. But if you have a business where you need to take photos a lot, it's for promotion purposes. So one big example is I do photography for a South Florida book club. It's called SoFo Book Club, and they use me a lot to take pictures while they're actually doing their book club for promotion. It doesn't really it's not really beneficial for them to be doing what they're doing and taking photos at the same time, but it's not like it's outside of the possibility. One person could get up and start taking photos. You can put the camera on auto mode, get a few photos. Again, with the type of stuff that they're doing, you're gonna need to accompany not just the camera, not just a lens, but also a speed light. And that can definitely help you take care of anything you needed to do. And when I say anything you needed to do, I mean anything you need to do in the realm of photography. You know, for full disclosure, I switched over to Sony. I got the Sony a7 IV, but I did it mainly for video, not for photography, because I'm starting to shoot mini series, like mini movies, mini episodes of like television quality type stuff. So the Nikon D3300 is nowhere on that level. Videos for the Nikon are great for something when you're stationary. Normally, I wouldn't have what's going on is a full auto focus to where while I'm moving, while I'm talking, you might see the camera trying to gain focus. I would normally turn it on manual focus because I would be behind the camera. When you turn it on manual focus, you don't have to worry about losing focus. Once you capture your focus on the first time around, you'll be good, and you'll be able to do things like interviews, like mini promotional videos for social media, mini promotional videos for other businesses, for yourself. And like I said, for any parents out there who want to get cameras for their kids, this would be a great camera for somebody entering into high school or something like that, because there's tons of projects. And a lot of projects, I get a lot of calls for parents who need camera work for projects. So now teachers are starting to institute, even when I was a kid, even when I was in high school, I had a camcorder myself and we had to do video projects. So this will cover any video project you need to do, because once you learn your camera, you'll be able to record, and then you'll get into the whole cinematic shots of things. But you are limited by lots of movement, or mostly any movement at all. The camera is not really good at focusing while things are moving or refocusing, and it also has a sound when it starts to move and focus. Is like a zzz, zzz, zzz. And you kind of don't want that during your video. Not kind of, you definitely don't want that during your video. So we'll switch over to some of the shortcomings of the camera, and that's basically video. When you're shooting on the Nikon D3300, it just limits you from a lot of movement, and that's when you need to upgrade. But if you're not shooting movies, if you're not trying to shoot, like I said, something that mimics television, something that mimics TV, then you're great. If you just need somebody to sit down, stay still, and record, you can do that. Also, right now, I'm using the audio from the camera. I'm not using any special audio microphones or anything like that to enhance sound. That's because I wanted to give you another opportunity to see the raw form of the camera, what it can do. The lens that I'm using on the camera right now is the kit lens. I'm not even using this 35mm lens. And if I turn, that's because I wanted to show you the 35mm lens, right? So somewhere during this video, I'll probably switch the lens out just to give you an opportunity to see what the 35mm lens does. Alright, so I just changed over to the 35mm and I can actually hear the camera trying to autofocus. But once you learn more about cameras, you can just turn your autofocus off once you let it autofocus where you need it to be. Also, when you start to understand aperture and depth of field, you can just adjust to the depth of field that you need if somebody's moving back, if somebody's not going to move back too far, and then keep it there. Like I said, the camera's really nice. It still has the ability to capture shadows, capture light. I have no lighting equipment on me right now. I'm outside in my patio. I have a light on, so you might see a light, but that's my patio light. I don't have any lighting equipment, and it gives you a really good crisp shot. And if I wanted to adjust to turn up the lighting more, I could, but I kind of like this look because, again, I'm into movies and cinema and stuff like that, and I just like the D3300. So let's go over everything again. The reason why I think that this camera is the best entry-level camera is more and more really because of the cost. The camera by itself is $270. That's a great entry-level cost to digital cameras. You're not gonna find any camera that can do the things that this camera can do for that price. You can do all the research yourself. Like I said, I'm going to leave links down below to the camera. It'll give you the full comparison of all the specs to what it can do. You're not going to find anything that has the digital quality. You're not going to find anything that has the ability to shoot video and picture at that low price. $270, brand new. Also, like I said, it comes with a kit lens. So for that price, it also comes with its own lens. That's the body and the kit lens as well. Once you start to do more and more research on cameras, you'll find out that cameras sometimes don't even come with a lens, and they're way more expensive. So I start at price. Me being a businessman, me being a father of 5, I always start out at price when I'm doing my comparisons. If you're doing business with your camera, you're definitely going to need that 35mm prime for lower light situations. You're definitely going to need that aperture to open up to 1.8 for lower light situations, and you're definitely still going to need a speed light. Speed lights range in anywhere from $60 to about $200 something. So the only difference that I've really found out about speed lights is its ability to continuously shoot without overheating or without stopping. So sometimes when you get a speed light, if you hit the speed light, it'll pop, and then it'll slow down in order to like come to a cool, and then it'll start popping and popping and popping again. I say there's 3 things that the camera doesn't do well, and that comes with its ability to focus really. When you're taking photos, sometimes with the lack of focus points around the camera, you won't be able to get certain photos. They'll be out of focus and you'll miss really good shots. But you just tell people to slow down. You just don't set the expectation of things moving that fast. You know what I mean? Just tell people to slow down. You're not taking sports photos with this, but you probably won't capture many good shots because of the lack of focus points. The other thing has to do with video and its inability to focus while things are moving. Like I said, I can hear the camera continuously trying to find me, continuously trying to catch a focus point while I'm talking. And that can be really annoying unless you turn it off. But I just have it on because I can't see because, that's another thing. The monitor is only on the back, so it's going to be hard for you to shoot anything for yourself. This camera is really dedicated to people behind the camera. You're going to do a lot more work behind the camera. You're going to get a lot more use out of the camera behind the camera than you will in front of it. So it's not made for somebody to use the camera for themselves. It's made for you to use the camera on something else, if that makes sense. It should. We live in 2024, you know what I mean. So let me run it back down again. This camera is best because of its low entry point, its high ability to take photos. You can get A1 photos if you learn the skill of taking photos. You can get grade A photos. You can compete with anybody in the entire universe taking photos with this camera if you learn the skill. And also its ability to get really good video at a low cost point. D3300, best entry level camera they've ever made. You tell me what you think in the comments. I used to be a Nikon man. I just switched over to Sony. I have the Sony a7 IV. I'll be making the majority of my videos with that camera from now on. And anything else in the future will be about that camera, or anything that I make as far as content is concerned is going to be about that camera. I have a mini series called Jordan the Teleporter coming out soon, so keep your eyes open for that. Until then, Purple Glass Media, tell me what you think in the comments. If you think this was helpful, if you think this was useful, tell me what you think. If you have any other questions about the Nikon, any other questions about its abilities, any other questions about my experience as a photographer, as a businessman, or anything else I might know about any other piece of equipment, let me know in the comments. Until next time, Purple Glass Media, South Florida company. Thank you very much.